I'm Wild Bill, and I want to talk about cartoons and meaning, relevance, topical relevance, philosophical relevance. When I was young, my father and I used to love to watch Rocky and Bullwinkle. It was zany and hilarious for me as a youngster, and for my dad, there was the occasional zinger in the form of a very, very backhanded political commentary or social commentary. My old friend Marty Gonzalez raised his kids up here on Noble Street, and as I recall, he remembers those times he spent with his son watching SpongeBob SquarePants, with the same thing, total insanity for the youngster, but for the adult, the occasional social or ethical or moral or political message buried in the craziness. So I want to talk about another cartoon, Naruto. Naruto is one of the most iconic of all the Japanese animated cartoons. As probably many of you know, Japanese animated cartoons tend to be a whole lot more adult than American cartoons. In America, we insult the intelligence because we get away with it, so why not keep doing it? That's true. That's why I don't watch television anymore. There's nothing on it for me. But in Japan, they challenge your intelligence, they make you mad, they make you passionate, in the hopes that you'll buy merch. Yes, that's what television's all about. Selling somebody's merch, either sponsors or your own. Yes, it is. It has no other purpose. Please don't expect television to be some kind of magical educational medium. It's not. It is a telemarketing event. Every day, every show, every commercial. All right. None of them survives without sponsors paying them money to show their advertisements. On PBS, it's a lot more subtle. It's things like mobile gas, clean, safe. Your kids can drink it. They sponsored this show, and people like you gave us a buck. It's what I get from PBS, why I no longer watch it. They are shills for the big corporations. They can't help themselves. With multi-million-dollar productions, you need to have money from the biggest corporations. You can't generate it yourself at the grassroots level. So it's never viewers like you. It's always viewers like the 1%. So anyway, I want to talk about a Japanese cartoon, Naruto. Naruto is, it's a sequential soap opera about superheroes in a fusion of feudal Japan and the 1950s and 60s. And the kind of thing that a good comic book writer would do, a mashup. Several things that are familiar to the viewer, and then the viewer becomes invested in the characters if the characters are well written. And suddenly you've got fans, and they're buying a copy every month, and they're arguing over it. And I like Sasuke better, I like Naruto better, I like Sakura better. This becomes a thing, it becomes a cultural phenomenon. Well, Japan has many such cultural phenomena, and that's part of what Japan does. It enervates them. It cuts the guts out of social relevance by making everything socially relevant until you're like swarmed with it. You can't grab one or another issue. You just kind of like watch them go by, like we do in America. But they're not insulting us intellectually. So anyway, Naruto has two bad guys that have an ongoing conversation as they head from town to town, assassinating people for money. They're mercenaries. Mercenary assassins. And they have this, I mean, that's a kid's show. So, at any rate, they have this conversation as they go that is one of the deepest conversations I have yet to audit between interesting people. I'm not kidding, these are cartoon characters. Their names are Sasori of the Sand and Deidara. And Sasori is a puppeteer, and his puppets are perfected. Everyone has a certain amount of powers, and he has magical finger lines that extend from his fingers to those puppets, and he can make them run around like real people and do off all their powers and shoot stuff and become other things like transformers, and it's a lot of powers. But his puppets are finite. They are known. We know what's going to come out of his puppets because we've seen them before, and he meant for them to be permanent. His partner, Deidara, is a crazy person. Deidara doesn't believe in anything to last. He models explosive clay that's animated, so he can make like a bomb that like scuttles to you and clutches your clothes and then goes off. And he believes that art is only of the moment. Huh, how about that? So we have these two cartoon characters, they're bad guys, in a very adult level situation, right? They're assassins. And they have, because they're so superpowered, life is boring for them, unless they're engaged. And so they have this philosophical conversation as they go along. Sasori believes that art is for the ages. His puppets are his legacy. This is his message to reality. This is what I did. This is who Sasori is. And Deidara doesn't believe any of that. His puppets only last for an instant and then they explode. And he believes that all of art, all of life, is explosion that cannot be repeated. Every new one is a new nuanced event. It's beautiful in its own way, and none is exactly the same as the last. Art for the moment. Art for the ages. It's a deep philosophical conversation. So I'm going to express where I buy into this. Because I am different, I am contrary. I have a tendency to go opposite of whatever I see. Any motion in the water, I tend to work against it. Behavior flow. Toxoplasma gondii, I don't know. But anyway, as I listen to these two very, very adult level characters have this conversation as they move from town to town, doing frightful things to people, I became invested in that conversation. I'm an artist. I think anyone who knows me will say whatever else is appended to the description of Wild Bill that, yeah, he's an artist. And this is a thing that really interests me. This idea is art of the moment or for the ages. Let's take an example. David Hipchen, a friend of mine, very talented guy, good looking, tries to stay in shape, has a social consciousness, has a lovely wife who's a very interesting person in her own right. David creates two kinds of art. He has an album, I think the second one in production. This one's Tilted Shadows, Nothing Ventured, which is a wonderful song, by the way. And that's where I make my point. Nothing Ventured has a permanent version right here. If you listen to this CD, you will hear that version of Nothing Ventured in your mind every time you think of the song, right? That will never change. This is art for the ages. This is Sasori of the Sand. But if you go to see David play at one of his many open venue gigs, he plays at the museum, he plays at parks, he plays all kinds of interesting places, festivals. Deutschtown loves him, as I know from many years. Also Millville Music Festival is kind of fond of him too. And every time he performs that song, he performs it a little different. So if you only heard Nothing Ventured at Cousins Lounge, you would hear that version, right? With Joey Connor playing guitar and his band, or the truncated two-man band, or perhaps you've only heard him do it by himself. In each of these cases, you will hear that version in your mind. So David does both art for the ages, and art of the moment in performance art. And that's what I do too. On YouTube, I have some of my songs. I have kind of a video library. Most of it is older stuff, and that older stuff is done as slideshows to a song that I recorded the piano first and then recorded the vocal part second. Some of this stuff is going to be better than anything I do in concert. I hate to say that because also I believe in fresh performance art. But these songs, ones I do that are prepared, that are carefully edited, and I might have done 30 takes. I hope I didn't. Many of them I did one, but still, they're not all perfect, and I go back and do it again if I feel I must. Those are art for the ages. The songs I have on YouTube, most of them, not the newer stuff. The newer stuff is me on video doing performance art. And that is the other kind, that is art for the moment. So if you scroll back through my YouTube channel, you'll see this Wednesday's set for the Starlight Virtual Open Mic. And if you scroll back 7 videos or 8 videos, you'll find last week's set for the Starlight Open Mic, and back the week before's. And you'll see a video library of my trip through emotional heaven or hell or whatever it is I'm doing this week, or however I feel in the course of anxiety, whatever else my chains of consciousness do to create a strand that people think of as wild Bill. I believe that art is both things. I think that Sasori and Dedera both had parts of the puzzle, but neither had the whole puzzle. Because if you listen to one of my prepared songs to a slideshow, which I post on my Facebook occasionally, you will find that those songs are frozen in time, and they're nice versions, because I didn't give bad ones up. I wanted these to be my introduction to potential fans. Hey, this is Bill's best work. If you'd like it, you like it. If anybody's going to like anything of it, this should be part of that. But now that I've been performing live, before camera, I'm hearing some of my songs evolve. And now the versions that I hear in my mind when I hear my own song are more recent versions. So Art of the Ages both spawns and influences performance art and sparks improvements in that pattern, in that song, by being repetitively performed, live, one shot, playing without a net, that's what I call it. So I believe that that to be a good artist, you must cross that line freely between art for the ages, the quilt that you made, and art of the moment. Your jokes, your cooking, your presence in the room can't be replaced, can't be repeated. Nobody's like you. There you go. My Wild Bill artistic philosophical lecture using Japanese cartoons for kids as a role model. How weird is that? I gotta tell you. Now, sometimes I wouldn't know if I was good or not, but as you can hear in the background, my biggest fan is with me.